morning, everyone. Glad you're here. While we're waiting, I put in the chat, while we're waiting, think about what you're doing right now for your peer-to-peer recruiting and what's working. And also, if you just want to put your name and what state you're from, great. We'd love to hear from you. Hi, Lansing. Last time I didn't do this. Hi, John. Hi, Shelly.
It's nice to see so many familiar names on the webinar today. Welcome.
Hi, Poppy. Happy Ada from Washington. Oh, cool. Shannon from Iowa. Dovie from Elkhorn State.
So as we're waiting for a few more people to come on, I think it would be really interesting, as well as saying where you're from, if you want to say in the chat a recent experience that you had that helped you make a decision based on information from a peer. And it doesn't have to be with your work. It could be anything outside of your work. What decision did you make recently that was influenced by one of your peers?
Should we give it another minute?
I think we should start.
You are always on time. Okay. Someone's gonna admit, right? Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and get started, okay? Yeah. So please go ahead and put your name and where you're from. Thanks, Stephen from Broward College. This is great, Charlotte. She's from New York City. Thanks. Okay, welcome to our Unibuddy and Study in USA webinar, Leveraging Relational Marketing for International Recruiting. Thank you for coming. And today we're discussing how powerful and effective relating on a human level can be to recruiting students. Before we continue, we'd like you to write down your questions in the chat section. And as questions come in, we'll periodically be asking some of those questions. This session will be recorded and sent out to you after today's webinar. Please mute your mics and let's get started. If you were here on our webinar last week, which I see familiar faces, you've got Sandra Holliday and myself, along with today's panel, Paige Steffi from Unibuddy and Darren Grosh from LA City College. Welcome. Thank you, Darren. Thanks, Paige. A little bit about our panel today. Paige worked in US higher education at both public and private universities. During her time in higher education, she has held roles in student recruitment, CRM management, event management, and campus tours. Now she is a customer success manager and works to support Unibuddy's partners in the US, Canada, and Mexico. Paige has a passion for educational access and for connecting students with resources that help them make informed decisions during their college search. And Aaron is the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs at LA City College, where he is developing the college's emerging landscape, academy, international student center, education, leadership, and social change, and innovative cross-cultural programming. Darren received his MA in Educational Leadership and Social Change from Antioch University, LA, and holds a BA in Environmental Education from San Jose State. And Sandra has enjoyed helping institutions recruit international students for the past 5 years. Prior to that, she was at San Francisco State University for 10 years and in the nonprofit K-12 sector before that. She was a year abroad student at the UC Santa Cruz and is a graduate of Sussex University in the UK. And I'm Nim. And international has always been part of my life, and I've worked in various roles in international higher education. Prior to working in higher ed, I owned a successful business for 16 years. And before that, I worked at K-12, both in gifted ed and the regular classroom. Born in Hong Kong, I attended an international school in Iran and worked in the UK. And I'm a proud graduate at Chapman University and CSU Global. Okay, so we're very excited about this panel, and we're going to try to make it more conversational. I'm going to just start out by saying that we feel at Study in the USA that our students are real people. They're actually looking, they're on our site for over 2 hours. And as a student research, they're turning back and forth to our site, and they're reading articles, school profiles, looking at our student and school videos, all on our site. As students gather information, this is where I see so much value of Unibuddy and Study in USA's partnership because of the combined reach and ability to chat to peers. Our reach is really high. In November, we had 1.4 million visitors on our site, and our platform annually sees 7.6 million visitors. Again, in November, we had over 9,000 student inquiries going to our schools and reviewing 300,000 page views on the combined profiles. Through live sessions, our student interviews reach 600,000 plus followers. Student newsletters reach an average of 46,100 students per month, and our social media campaigns reach an average of 575,000 students. Our broad reach maximizes a student's global exposure to stay competitive around the world and reach students throughout their search for the right school. So why are we discussing relational marketing? Relational marketing is all about establishing an emotional connection with a real person, and don't we need it right now in this environment, whether it's in an ad or it's in branding. In today's terms, in our webinar, we can consider it's about connecting at a higher level through human contact, be a student ambassador by relating and bridging communication through person-to-person contact. Why is this important? Recent data from the National Student Clearinghouse reports year over year, and I love data, that in November, first-year student enrollment is down 13%, community colleges are down 15.9%, public institutions down 10.5%, nonprofits are down 8.5%, while international enrollment for undergrad is down 14.9% and graduates 7.8%. So I'm asking, is this pandemic related, or is it something more than that? And what can we do about it? How important is social proof, and how is Study in the USA and Unibuddy, our partnership, how is it critical to the current enrollment? So Sandra, I'd love for you to share. You ready?
Yeah, I'm going to share well, first of all, I'm going to just share a little story. You know, social proof, relational marketing, peer-to-peer, we've heard a lot of these buzzwords, but what does that actually mean in terms of day-to-day relationships, and how can we leverage those for our goals? So I'm sure that most of you recently have looked at buying like either a bike or, well, I'm just using this as an example, like either buying a bike or thinking about a new exercise class that you want to take. Well, where do you go for that information? You know, most of you are going to go to your networks, and you're going to get that information from your networks, and you're going to get that from a real person telling you why they like that thing. When I was searching for programs with my son, to study abroad, we were sitting at the kitchen table and we both had our computers open, and I was looking at programs, and I was looking at how long the president had been there, the facts and figures, what the overall mission was, what the retention rate was, which are all really valuable things to know, and they were very helpful in the decision-making process. But looking across at my son's computer screen and seeing what he was doing was very different. He was reading articles from students, he was going to the student bloggers, and it was like, wow, we're getting this, we're making a decision, but the way that we're accessing the information is very, very different. And so I'm a firm believer, I've experienced myself, the power of this peer-to-peer networking and peer-to-peer marketing. And ever since we started 40 years ago, Study in the USA has been evolving the opportunity for students to connect with other students. So starting with our magazines 40 years ago, we would always have student interviews in those magazines. Obviously, we're an omni-channel marketing company now. So in all the vehicles that we're in, we do put student voice out there front and center. In fact, I'm going to share my screen now. Excuse me, I hope this works. So I'm going to share my screen now to give you some examples of what that relational advertising looks like on Study in the USA. Can everyone see my screen? Give me the thumbs up. Yeah. Okay, so we have actually a whole area on our site of student blog posts. This is an example recently, a couple of days ago, December the 6th, from a Mexican high school student to the big leagues in the United States. It's a really nice article about a student at UT Austin, and it's giving information and an experience and a taste of UT Austin that you wouldn't get from an ad. It's an example of a real person's experience. We have interviews, we have blogs, we have student videos, all different things on our website so that we can help showcase that student voice. And really, this evolution of valuing the student voice, really, we were looking for another way to capitalize on that. And Unibuddy is the perfect partner, because Unibuddy and our partnership with Unibuddy is able to take that student voice to a whole different level and to bring it to life and to make real connections with real students. And I am just so excited about it. And I'm a huge fan of Unibuddy, and I was thinking back to, I mean, I won't say how many years ago, but when I was looking at schools, I was like, wow, I would have loved this. And then I thought, I really did use peer-to-peer networking when I was looking at college, because when I was looking at the University of Sussex, I had a friend of a friend of a friend who was a student at the University of Sussex, and I remember talking to them about it. And that was actually a real deciding factor in what made me go there. So let me just show you what Unibuddy looks like on our site. But before that, not to elongate you with facts and figures, I think it's really important to note that on our student blog, which is an example of this one from UT Austin, we had last month 105,000 people looking at our student blog. So it's really powerful. And then the student blogs go back to the school profiles. Let me show you an example of a school profile on Study in the USA. This is the University of Mississippi. They have several profiles in several languages. And as you can see, for those of you that are familiar with Study in the USA, it's our regular profile, lots of facts and figures. You can send in an inquiry, but here's the new thing and the really exciting thing. You can chat with a student. So you can go straight here, learn more, chat with the student, and then you'll be able to see all the University of Mississippi Unibuddies pop up. There we go. They've got 1, 2, 3, they've got like 10 different Unibuddies that they've recruited who are having conversations now with potential students. And it's really amazing. Just to show you again, another profile. This is Darren's school, Los Angeles City College International Student Program. Right there, when you're looking at that school, you can see the Unibuddy students pop up right there. And you know, it's just amazing, this whole partnership. So I'm just going to leave you with this screen here where you can see student Unibuddy ambassadors from lots of different schools. UC Santa Barbara, you know, or USC, UCI, loads of Lane Community College. You can actually go to a place where you can have all these opportunities. I'll just say one more thing before I hand it over to Paige, but having worked at San Francisco State University for several years, there were certain initiatives that we were really interested in. Like we were really interested in expanding the number of students who have attended college for the first time. And so what you could do is you could have like an intentional group of Unibuddies who fit that profile and then do marketing and based on that. And so there's lots of ways that you can really, in addition to having, you know, lots of great Unibuddies for people to talk to, you can actually be very, very strategic about who you're recruiting to be your ambassadors. And I think it's amazing. So I'm going to have Paige talk a little bit now about Unibuddy and our partnership, but I just do feel like this is the natural evolution for Study in the USA to add this opportunity for our current clients, and we're really excited. So Paige, if you want to talk a little bit more about the big Unibuddy picture and how that works, and then we can talk with Darren as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you both, Mim and Sandra, for the opportunity to be here with you today. I'm super excited to talk a little bit about Unibuddy and what we do as a company. I think you've set me up really well for this, because Unibuddy's mission at a baseline level is peer-to-peer communication, right? We recognize the importance of connecting prospective students with current students. That's what Unibuddy was built on. And I think we all have those experiences, right? Where like, you think about your college search and how useful this would have been for you. I know I'm with you, Sandra. I fully did kind of like peer-to-peer communication before Unibuddy was even a thing when I was looking for my university as well. So the intention of the Discover platform is to do exactly that, connect students at the very top of the funnel here, especially with Study in the USA, to allow them to understand what they're getting themselves into with being an international student and asking those important questions about what is my life going to be like, who am I going to hang out with, who am I going to fit in with, all of that good stuff at the end of the day. And then full Unibuddy itself actually has a virtual events platform that our partners are able to use, as well as staff profiles. So you can put your admission counselors, financial aid representatives, all of the above onto our full platform and actually use that on your own website as well. So there's a lot of really great opportunities there for folks to get involved with peer-to-peer communication. And so now I'm going to actually turn it over to Darren, who I'm super excited is here. He's from LA City College, as we had talked about a little bit earlier, but he's on the Unibuddy Discover platform. He's used Study in the USA for a long time. And I was just telling him earlier before the webinar started, but I wanted to give a shout out to Kim, who's actually an LA City College alum who now works at Unibuddy. So there's so many connections here. We just got to love that, right? Darren, do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of your experience with Study in the USA and why you decided to come on with Unibuddy?
Sure. So, you know, back in August, Shelly, who I work with Study in the USA, told me about this opportunity to partner with Unibuddy. And she said it was a really easy process to onboard, and I should do it. I'm going to love it. And so our office at LACC, we have a pretty small international student program office. We're staffed by a CGCA, which is an intern basically, and I have a couple of student workers. And so I was just trying to think, okay, how am I going to be able to best leverage this, and what's the workload going to be like on this? And Shelly told me it's going to be really easy to do. And sure enough, I think we started the process in September. I was on board with Unibuddy within a couple of weeks. And I had a couple of student workers in my office who agreed to go ahead and start participating in Unibuddy. And we have been pleasantly surprised with how well it's been going. My students enjoy engaging with other students. And we are really just, I mean, on a daily basis, engaging with students who are contacting us through Study in the USA and through Unibuddy, through that platform. And the conversations, the way that our students work, they either are able to do that through the portal, or they're able to do that through an app. And the students that we're speaking to, I mean, they are really coming from all walks of life. They're here in the United States, which has been a pleasant surprise, because a lot of the students that we're trying to recruit now are really transfer students in the immediate future. And then of course we have students who are interested in coming to us, you know, once here in LA, you know, with COVID, it's been a pretty secure lockdown for us, but students who are really eager to come. And so we're engaging with them on a regular basis, and it's students from everywhere, from Vietnam, from Ireland, from Bahrain. I mean, it really is all walks of life, and it has been really remarkable to see. So it's been a great experience. The onboarding's been very easy. And again, the interaction is constant. And I think we've been really trying to be creative with how we continue that engagement, not just once they contact us, but how do we keep that conversation going?
I would like to just share that if you have a Unibuddy ambassador that's in a math class and they get pinged, they don't have to respond like right away. It's all done through, the communication is all done through an app. We do like to have people respond within 24 hours, but it's not an invasive thing at all. And that's the beauty of this. It's you know, the student can work this into their own sort of time frame. And I just think that there's such a difference between having a real person, like hands up, who had texts from different campaigns in this last election, right? Most of us, right? So when you get the text from the bot, you know it's a bot, right? You know that it's not a real person. And so you're like, meh. But then when you get a text from someone, and actually you might think it's a bot, and you say something mean or whatever, and the person says, oh, I'm sorry that you feel like that. This is why I'm supporting Joe Biden, or, you know, whatever. And then you have a conversation. It's really, really different. I was very lucky in that I was able to take some time off work and volunteer in the last election, and heard from, you know, top of the game digital marketers who are working on the Biden Relational campaign. And it was amazing to see the numbers and to see the difference in engagement of just some, you know, random message that wasn't a real person, as opposed to an interaction with a real person. And being one of the real people myself that was texting, you know, you obviously have to sort of stick to some parameters, excuse me, but, you know, you engage your personality in there. And I think that's the benefit of these students. It's not just reading facts and figures from a brochure or from a website. You're really getting that personal look and that personal taste in there. Would you talk a little bit about the experience you were sharing with us earlier, Darren, about what surprised you about the interactions with the students?
Yeah, you know, so I have a spreadsheet that I keep to keep track of who am I engaging with, which is, you know, really easy to do. And, you know, I think what I found so far as I've selected my Unibuddy representatives, I found that based off of their major, those are the students that are really inquiring with them. So not so much, it hasn't been so much, oh, I want to go study in Los Angeles. It's, oh, there's a nursing program in LA, and my Unibuddy rep is a nursing student. So from that information that I'm collecting and seeing, so I'm going to expand my Unibuddy network. So I'm going to try to find students where, okay, so I know my top majors for international students are going to be really cinema and TV, because I'm in Los Angeles. That's a big major for us. You know, and then we have the standard business, computer science, but I'm going to try to find Unibuddies that are going to be within those majors, because that seems to be what's really attracting students to talking to my students. Not so much the location or the school, but it's the major associated with the school and the location. So that's something I need to expand on, which I'm very eager to do. The other thing that I found, and to your point, Sandra, is we've been creating events. So we do game nights, or we have activities that we try to engage our Unibuddies in. So we invite them to come to these events as a way to, you know, keep them engaged. And that's our students that are doing it. It's not, you know, I'm not hosting a game night. I'm not hosting a recruitment event. It's just my students are going to host something and invite Unibuddy folks to come. And that's been fantastic. So I feel like the Unibuddy network, it really is. And Sanj, you kind of hit the nail on the head. They're interested in talking to the student. They're not really interested in my mission statement. Their parents might be, but it's the student talking to my student, learning about, okay, what's it really like in the nursing program at LACC? Or, you know, is it going to be a fit for me? You know, is the culture going to be the right fit for me? You know, they're not looking at the website for the mission statement per se. So that's been a real pleasant surprise, I think. And it's really gotten me to rethink, again, who I'm going to bring in to be my Unibuddy ambassador, because I think that's going to be really important moving forward as I strategically market myself in engaging with students. And again, the range, Sandra, that's the other thing I found really interesting, is I was curious to know, okay, who's really using Unibuddy? Like in terms of what country are they from? How is that platform going to work in that specific region? And it's been everywhere. I mean, it hasn't just been Southeast Asia. It hasn't just been Europe. It's been the Middle East. It's been North Africa. It's been Southeast Asia. And then more importantly, it's been in the United States. You know, a student who's at maybe who was in Mississippi, California is different. It's like a different country, or Hawaii is like a different country. And so it's nice for students to be able to talk to our students here in California, because they can market what it's like to study in California. I mean, really, when I'm marketing or when I talk to my students, I want them to sell California, not so much the United States as a whole, but California, because California is California. That's its own marketing opportunity in its own right. And then, of course, being in Hollywood, I mean, the Hollywood sign is right next to our campus. I mean, that in itself is its own unique selling point. So I feel like that's something that we talk about and we leverage when we're marketing. And that's why I think we're seeing so many students in the United States contact us. And that's been helpful for us. And I think one thing I just add too, that I've been shocked, Sandra, I was skeptical how many of these students that are talking to my students are actually going to apply. And I've been really surprised with how many students have actually applied for fall 2021, or even a transfer student wanting to come to us in spring, knowing that we're only online. I think that's been I've been shocked by that.
Well,
In a good way. I just wasn't expecting that so quickly, because I'm new to Unibuddy in that sense. So I've seen it pay off pretty fast.
Well, and Darren, I feel like you've touched on some really good things in that conversation as well, because that is a lot of data that Unibuddy is able to give to our partner institutions, right? That kind of like deep dive into the questions that are actually being asked, so that you can kind of maybe potentially change your marketing strategy. If you know you're getting a lot of questions about the courses that are coming through, you can say, okay, that's going to be something that we focus on in our next email campaign. And we know that we've got some students coming in from the United States, so we're going to do a little additional outreach maybe in Mississippi, because we see that there's a lot of students coming through there. So it's a great opportunity for our partner institutions to really kind of take the reins and be creative in that way. So that's one thing that we love to see at Unibuddy. So I'm so glad to hear that you're doing that.
So we have a question from Shannon. Do Unibuddy ambassadors need to be current students, or can they also be alumni? Great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. So we do have an opportunity to add alumni ambassadors, but we definitely recommend current students, just because of the fact that they are on your campus right now. They know the answers to the questions that the students are going to be asking about what student life is like and things like that. And as much as we always do love an alumni voice in things, sometimes things have changed since they've graduated. So it's good to have, at least if you're thinking about it, a mix of both, just so that you get all of those questions answered.
And I just add to that page, I'm onboarding a student next semester from USC who's a former LACC student. So that's something I feel like that is a nice additional piece if a student's looking for that pathway. I mean, USC obviously is a great name there. And that's fortunate for me that I have a student we have a lot of students who transfer there. It's a feeder school. I feel like we feed a lot of students there, but to have that additional piece is going to be really nice for us. So I feel like that's something that I would be curious to see in my data. Okay, well, a student maybe wants a pathway to USC or to that kind of school. Okay, now I have an alumni who's done LACC and who's currently in USC. I think that's going to be a really nice, additional piece that we can utilize when we're marketing.
Erin, you touched on something that I really wanted to go back to, because I really am excited that students from the United States, or students that are studying in the United States, I don't know if they're international or if they're domestic, but I love the fact that we have 28% of our population, our traffic on our site are from the United States. So that's millions of students that are looking. And I love the fact that you were surprised by that, which is great, because that's really exciting. You want to address that a little bit more? And do you think, are the questions different from in the United States compared to, in other countries from students?
Yeah, so just to give you just some numbers or data, I have this semester alone, just from fall, I have 3 transfer students that have contacted me through studying in the USA platform that are transferring to LACC. 3, that's a great number.
Yeah.
Just in terms of, contacting them and them finding interest. And I think in terms of questions, they're really kind of the same in that they want to know about the program, they want to know about the school, and they want to know about the location. I mean, a lot of the questions are kind of similar. And again, that's what I found interesting is that, oh yeah, they're in a location that is not familiar to them, and they're going to try to come to our school, which is not familiar to them. Again, California, LA, I think when we think about culture and adapting culturally, you're not just adapting to the United States and what that culture is like, or California culture, or even LA culture, or then you have the LACC culture. There's all these different components that I think these students are trying to inquire about. And again, I go back to Sandra's point, the students really just want to know, what is it like to be a student, and what is that culture like for them being in our case, LA. It's not, what is it like to study? This is what I find actually really fascinating. It hasn't been, what is it like to study in the United States? That's not a question I've seen. It's, what is it like to study in LA in your nursing program? Or what is it like to be a student in Los Angeles in your marketing business program? And that's what we're getting. Not, is it challenging being a student who's coming to the United States? It's been very specific and really detailed type of questions. These students know what they're looking for. I had a student reach out to me who wanted to be, who wanted to go to like a flight school. There's only one community college in California publicly that has a flight school. And so, I was able to network that student to that appropriate school. And even that to me is a success, because it's hard to navigate so much. And so even if my students or myself, I can direct a student to the right location, I mean, that's a benefit. I feel like in that sense, I'm using Unibuddy to help out some of my other colleagues that might, like to see that enrollment go up too. And I think in that sense, it's also been a really big win. But again, going back, it's been very specific questions, and they're really all the same. Whether they're in the United States, whether they're in California, in Northern California, it's very different to be in Southern California. So I think that's been a big surprise to me. It's not what I expected.
I'm sure Sandra and I would agree, as people in Northern California, that it can be slightly different.
It is so different. It's a different experience.
I would just say there's a couple of questions coming in. Maybe you could address some of them, Paige. Do we have, oh, I see, you're already saying that you do have some secondary school partners, but the platform is optimized for university. Okay, and so then about the, do you receive questions about funding and scholarships? Do we just say to the students, you don't need to handle those kinds of questions, here's the resource, or how is that kind of navigated?
Well, and that's such a good question, because it does kind of go back to something that we can help you with here at Unibuddy. We are definitely kind of really well positioned to assist you in the ambassador manager side of thing, or ambassador management side of things. That was something that I did in my time in higher education. I always loved it. So part of our kind of onboarding process is that we will actually help you train your ambassador so that they're super comfortable and confident with using Unibuddy, and they feel like they understand how to answer questions and all of that stuff. But then I always recommend to my partner institutions that they kind of take that next step and provide their ambassadors with a glossary of information about financial aid folks, any international office information that would be useful for them to have as Unibuddy ambassadors, so that if they do get those questions about scholarship, funding, any of those things, that they can actually kind of know the answer to those questions and send that information, like, here's the person that you should contact in the financial aid office for the answer to that question. Just because, like, obviously your student ambassadors aren't going to become financial aid professionals overnight, but they can, really provide that resource for a student who's coming to them on the Study in the USA website specifically too. So.
And there's another follow-up question about if prospective students are communicating directly with the ambassadors, how does that info get sent to staff at the institutions so that you have the data about the communications questions?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Actually, one of the fantastic things about the full Unibuddy platform is that you get access to this back-end dashboard that does show you all of the conversations that are happening with your student ambassadors. The prospects themselves are anonymized just to make sure that they can ask any types of questions that they need to, but you can see the responses that your student ambassadors are sending back and forth. So you get full granular information, and then you also get a kind of machine learned data insights from us at Unibuddy saying, about 20% of your questions were about admissions, 30% about financial aid and scholarships. So we give you that information as well.
Paige, can you explain, is that the same with the Discover platform, or is there a big difference?
Yeah, so you do, Darren can also speak to this hopefully as well, but you have access to the conversation managements tab. So you can see all of the conversations that your students are having, as well as a little bit of granular data on what countries they're coming from and what they're actually asking about.
So I think we should just kind of clarify what is the Unibuddy Discover platform. Do you want to talk about that, or Mim?
I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So
I'll let Paige talk about it. She's the Unibuddy person.
So the Discover platform is actually what Sandra just showed earlier in the presentation. So it lives on the Study in the USA website, and it allows the partner institutions who are on that platform to put up their student ambassadors on that website and have some traffic drivers to the Chat with the Students feature on Study in the USA's website. Full Unibuddy actually allows you to pull those traffic drivers onto your own institution's website and host the Unibuddy platform on your institution's website. And we also, when you have full Unibuddy, you have access to our virtual events platform. So we have a really great platform that allows you to do kind of like group chats, if you will, live events and things like that. And it's a really fantastic opportunity, especially in this virtual recruitment period, to be able to kind of get folks off of Zoom and onto a different platform that allows them to connect with each other and with your students and staff. So that's the kind of difference, at least at the end of the day.
So the Unibuddy, just to sort of clarify, so for our current Study in the USA clients who are, I see many familiar names and faces on this webinar. So that's the opportunity to, if you currently have a profile with Study in the USA, there's an opportunity to get into the Unibuddy Discover program. It's sort of like a taste of Unibuddy. Try it out. You'll be so excited that you'll want to go, I'm sure, onto the full Unibuddy. So it's a way for you to get a little taste of what the interaction and the peer-to-peer networking is. And so then and that's actually a complimentary for several months on that platform. So
and
it's
that's the great thing too, that it works vice versa, right, Sandra?
Right.
Because we have some of our Unibuddy partners here for this webinar as well. And if y'all are interested in getting a English language profile on Study USA and see how that works for you, it's a very nice partnership in that sense. Like we're working both ways.
Right. And it just makes so much sense. And as I said, it's really natural sort of evolution for Study in the USA to offer this to our clients, because you can have the best website and the best virtual tour of your campus or the best Unibuddies, but if you're not keeping that in front of prospective students, you have to have the whole thing really. So we're very excited about this, and we're very excited that we have the opportunity to share the Unibuddy Discover platform with more people. And we're really starting to see it work. In fact, one of my clients recently was saying, well, our student ambassadors are so excited, they want to have more conversations.
And that's the truth of it, right? I was a student ambassador all through my college experience, and that was why I wanted to be a student ambassador. Like, I loved talking to prospective students. I loved engaging with families that would come to campus. And so really being able to take that online, especially right now in 2020, I think is such a huge benefit to institutions all throughout the United States. So we're really happy to be partnering as well.
And it's a great thing for students to put on their resume that or in their LinkedIn. I actually saw a couple of your previous Unibuddy ambassadors say some really nice things about their experience on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's honestly, I think it's one of those jobs where you get to learn a lot about answering questions, like you're in an interview almost, and things like that. It's a really great like skill builder at the end of the day. But I was a student ambassador, so I'm always going to say that, right?
I have a quick question to ask you as far as, where in the student journey, Darren, do you see most of the students that are coming on and asking the questions? Are they more in the beginning phase, in the middle? Where do you see the student in their search?
It's been a mix. A student that I just spoke to yesterday through Unibuddy is a high school student in Australia, finishing up her studies, wanting to come to do a nursing program in fall 2021. So very new, but very engaged, right? And that's through Unibuddy. I've also seen students who are at the transfer stage, who are at another institution that want to come over and as a pathway. So they're kind of in the, I would say, in the middle of their studies, right? They're at another college and they want to come over and pursue their next step in their degree program. So it's been kind of a wide range. I would say the majority, though, they've been new students inquiring about what is that educational journey going to look like, for me. And I just want to add to, this is one department that I oversee. And when Shelly said, hey, you should try Unibuddy, it's free, like, do it. Why would you not? I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it's another, how am I going to make time to do this? If I'm going to be honest, I was kind of scared. I'm like, okay, am I going to be able to make, because I know that you have to put in the time to make these things work. You can't just have a profile up on Study in the USA and then think you're going to get a ton of people. Like, you got to put in the work for it. But it's been so easy because my students are just talking, and then I just have to carve out a little bit of time each week to like look at the dashboard, follow up, and then I have a conversation with my ambassador. I mean, it's not sucking a lot of time out. And in fact, it's been really easy to just kind of make it a part of my daily routine with my student ambassadors, and they love it. Like, this is like, we have Cranium Cafe, so they're on our virtual office, and then they're able to, while they're on their virtual office, talk to students through Unibuddy. So I think that has been great. And one thing I just want to add to, my student ambassadors, I think, were nervous about using the app at first because they were afraid of, okay, is it going to be too much? And so they strictly just did the portal, but now they use the app too. And so it's been really, I think everyone has been pleasantly surprised with how easy it's been to use and how it has not been a hard thing to do. And this is with a small office. I mean, if you have a huge office, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine what you'd be able to do.
Well,
I can't imagine. It would be pretty awesome.
I can totally echo what you're saying there, Darren, right? At the end of the day, like, we at Unibuddy want to make it as easy as possible for your student ambassadors to interact with the prospective students and make it as easy as possible for you as the kind of administrator side of things to interact with your dashboard. And so that's why here at the customer success side of Unibuddy, I'm really glad to hear you say that, because that means that we're doing our job correctly, and that I'm glad to hear that you're having a positive experience. So thank you for that.
Paige, could you talk a little bit about some of the training that you offer to the ambassadors?
Absolutely. So we actually have a weekly webinar training for our student ambassadors. And basically it gives them a really good overview of how to utilize the platform. We talk to them about how to put together their profile, because I remember when I was in college, like, having to write a paragraph about myself is not like my favorite thing to do, right? And so we kind of walk them through like ways to make their profile stand out, talking about the things that they love. I always make the bad joke that, like, Leslie Note from Parks and Recreation is my personal hero. And so when I was on Unibuddy, that was something that I actually put into my bio. And I had a bunch of people reach out to me being like, I also love Parks and Recreation. So I tell that story every week. And I'm like, that's the thing that will make those types of connections, really allowing people, to get super granular. Stacy, I see your comment. Love that. So many binders. All good stuff. But we go over the profiles. We go over also a little bit of conversational kind of training as well. So we talk about what makes a good Unibuddy conversation and what makes maybe a less good one. So we encourage our ambassadors to ask questions of the prospective students to keep the conversation going, and all of that good stuff. And it's a really kind of like full scope training. And then we also do have kind of constant support for our ambassadors as well. So if they need to reach out and they have any questions, or, you know, they're like, oh, this kind of crazy looking prospect came through, like, can you help me out understanding what's going on here? We've got a great support team that helps them out as well.
I would just add, my students enjoyed the training. It was
good.
really easy to be a part of. And then I think you also mentioned too, then I do supplemental training too, just to kind of make sure, like to your point, you know, scholarships or, you know, all those other areas, you know, how do we direct them there if they have questions, or we can answer directly. But the training was really easy and it was very frequent. So yeah, I think just so you guys know, it was a pleasant experience for them.
Darren, I'm gonna get too big of a head. You can't keep giving me compliments.
I really like what you two have said though, but you basically on the training for the ambassadors, and that, you know, learning what to say. I had a couple questions to ask and to address something that Darren said. This is prior to the webinar, but what makes a good a good conversation? That's one thing. And what have you found that makes a good conversation? Because I think for a lot of people out here who might not be using Unibuddy, but they're trying to reach out to students, what does make a really good conversation? Also, Darren, you said something about, you know, prior to this that, you know, on studying the USA, and I think you're relatively new to study in the USA, that you're actually getting on the phone and calling and you're amazed by the reaction. You want to address that too, because I'd really love to hear that.
Yeah, you know, a couple of things I just want to say with our students and my ambassadors specifically. I really do want the students who are asking questions about coming to our school. I tell my students to be very honest, right? We're an urban school. Public transportation is something that we are lucky to have. We have a great metro system, but some students don't want that. And I want to make sure my students are very transparent, open, and honest. And I have no problem directing another student to the right school if that's where they need to go. Again, like, I think that's something I really strive to make sure my students are being true. So the conversations that I see, they're pretty honest conversations, and I appreciate that. You know, I don't need my student to falsely sell or to like only say the positives. I want my students to be open and honest with the student that they're talking to, because I need that student to make the best decision for them and for their family. I think that's something I really push my students to see. So those are the kind of conversations, you know, that I'm seeing. I think in terms of contacting students with studying the USA, I get, actually Fridays are my day. So every Friday, I go through my inquiry report. I have my emails. I email everybody individually. And I make sure when I greet them, I try to greet them in their language that I see that they may be from. Then I have my team on Monday, my CGCA follows up with them again, just to double check to make sure, is everything going okay in the process.
Are you following up with email? Are you following up with an email?
I follow up with an email directly to them. I don't do mass emails. I do direct emails to each person through the inquiry. Then my team on Monday will follow up in a mass email setting. And then I host Zoom meetings every Wednesday morning and Thursday night to hit up the different time zones. So I'm inviting them to come and just have chat sessions with me. On average, on my 2-hour windows when I'm having chat sessions, either in the morning to hit up really my Southeast Asia market, or again, you know, in the evenings, I'm kind of hitting it more the European market. I'm having at least 2 students a week per day, I should say. So 4 students a week who are coming to connect with me through the Zoom. And if they can't connect me through there, I connect them through my virtual lobby, which is open Monday through Thursday, where they can talk to my students who are my Unibuddy people. So I'm just really redirecting that. And then I'm hosting events. So through that, and it's not hard to do. I mean, they're just really open hours, right? That I just set aside. I'm seeing not just applications, but students coming to me in the spring through this. And this has really just been a lot of, it's just not a lot of work, but I've been surprised. I'm not gonna lie, I was very skeptical because I am not new to these types of platforms, but I am new to studying in the USA. And I feel like with studying in the USA, I've seen so many various tools I could utilize, whether it's Facebook Live, Instagram Live. I have my students blog, like Sandra said. The blog has been amazing. So I have students who have projects. I post that up. I did a photo contest about, quarantine, like what are you doing during quarantine? And students could submit photos, and then we post that up on our YouTube. I mean, it's really been kind of all symbiotic with one another, but I think all those little things have helped direct traffic to our website and allowed us to get applications and real students coming to us in the spring. I just wasn't expecting that because I haven't seen that kind of production from the other platforms that I utilize at other schools. Because, and this is, I think, the biggest thing, they only have one type of thing that you can do on that platform. Where Study in the USA has all these different ways you can connect, not just with students, but with parents too. I think that's been really key. And I appreciate that. And I want to thank, again, I don't know if Shelly's here, but Shelly really did a great job directing me to these different platforms that I don't think I would have done on my own. Or if I did them on my own, I wouldn't have had the audience. That's the thing. I don't think I would have had the audience to get that. I have my own Instagram page, but I don't have hundreds of thousands of millions of people using it. It's such a small group on my own platform. So I've been surprised.
Well, kudos to you too, because you're the one that we're saying this over and over again. You've got to respond to your inquiries. You've got to reach out, and you're doing it. I love that you're doing these live events, that you're following up with those inquiries and inviting them. That's my thing. Invite them to come in, do some chat, do it by major, get a professor on, do things that will make students want to interact and engage with you. So, and anyway, so kudos to you. I
want to say one of the things, and this just happened, I think last week. I had a student from Australia who wanted to learn more about our program. And I just said, oh, look at one of our students who just did an Instagram live through Study in the USA from Australia. Yeah. And see what she had to say about her experience here. And that was the easiest way to just really have that student connect. She submitted an application. I mean, it's been those kinds of things that I can post and make that student connection. Again, Sandra's point, you just nailed it earlier, Sandra, with that anecdote. Because you're right, as a parent, I'm going to what's the mission statement? What are the statistics? Oh, what's the ratio of, student body? What does that look like? And that's not what my students are really interested in. They want to know what is that peer-to-peer experience like? And any way I can get them to experience that, whether it's through Unibuddy or Instagram Live or Facebook Live or a blog, that's what I need. So.
I would just also like to comment, I know we've got a few people on the webinar who are with very large institutions. And I just think that this opportunity is a great way to break down some of the silos that we have in higher ed between international and domestic admissions, because this platform can be used for everything. And I just think that oftentimes international, we kind of do it, we're doing it all on our own, and there's not often an opportunity to sort of cross-pollinate with, and that means obviously sharing resources and sharing budget allocations. But this is a great way for those of us in the international ed part of the institution to partner with the domestic, because the thing is I think, as Darren was saying so well, is that a theater student is going to want to talk to other theater students, and it might not even necessarily need to talk to somebody from the same country. But then also there's the whole part about, well, if you're from one country, you want to hear what the experience is from students from that country. So there's lots of different ways that this platform can help cross-pollinate and break down some of the silos that we have in higher ed. And I think when we do that and we combine resources, it's always a good thing because the students benefit.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one.
Paige, were you going to talk about maybe some of what makes a really good conversation?
Yeah, I love that question too, because I think it's such an important thing when you do start training your ambassadors, even outside of Unibuddy or Study in the USA. For me, one thing that we really like to drive home in our trainings is that what makes a good conversation at a baseline level is listening, right? So you, as the student ambassador, it's your job to actually pay attention to what that prospect is asking you. If they've asked you about soccer, don't just give them information about the gym, right? Talk to them about soccer. That's what they want to know. And so when you kind of start to understand that and recognize that listening is the most important baseline of the conversation, then you can move forward with those things that Darren was talking about too, right? Being honest and genuine about your experiences. That's something that I always like to say. It's, you were chosen as an ambassador for a reason. Like, we want to hear your stories. We don't want to hear what you think we want to hear. We want to hear what's your actual experience. And ultimately, at the end of the day, those two things, listening and being honest and genuine, are going to make a fantastic conversation and a really good experience for the prospective student too. So those are my top tips, I would say.
I also think that it really speaks to, you know, the human element. Because
Absolutely.
honesty, authenticity. Gen Z really wants that. They want, you know, people to be real. And so that's so relevant what you just said. Appreciate that.
And I will also put on one of my, I used to work in development and alumni relations at San Francisco State University. And so I would be remiss if I didn't put on my hat of being kind of like the development advisor too. This is a great way to engage your current students, to have a more deep and meaningful relationship with your institution, so that when they go off and become successful alumni, they're going to have that lovely, warm and fuzzy feeling, and they were a student ambassador for you. So it's a really great way to, you know, work on that alumni relationship and that development relationship too, which I think we need to be more mindful of, because in international recruitment, especially like right now, we can't travel. We really need to be nurturing those alumni relationships, because they can be helping us so much, not just financially, but also just relational. And we actually have a really good webinar on our, we have a couple of webinars on our site that talk about, you know, peer-to-peer and relational, leveraging your network, I think it's called.
So we only have a few more minutes to go. We have about 5. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll try to answer your questions. But Darren, I'm going to address to you, what are some of the things for going forward in 2021? We're all hopeful. It's, you know, it's been a hard year, but you know, we're really hopeful. What are some of your recruitment ideas? What are some things that you're gonna move forward with using Unibuddy, study in the USA, or just in general?
You know, I think I was very reliant before on recruitment fairs, very reliant on, and I was always very interested in virtual recruitment fairs. You know, I did a lot of work with U.S. commercial services and leveraging that network, and working with, you know, agents. I think that's great, but I'm going to really focus more on the peer-to-peer relational type marketing. I have found that this has just really been, for what we're seeing right now, like, I don't know why I was not putting more of a focus on this earlier. And to Sandra's point, as a community college, I've always been struggling and trying to find a way to be more, have my former students be more connected with us, to be good alumni. I really, Sandra, I think that you made a great point. Having them be student ambassadors really has given them a sense of pride and ownership in the school. And I feel like they're going to be great alumni moving forward. They're going to want to stay connected with us. But I feel like for 2021, and the reality is, being here in LA, like, I do not think we're going to be back on campus for a while. As much as I am hopeful that we'll be back, you know, fully for fall, the reality is I don't know if we're going to be. And I think with this peer-to-peer marketing, this has been something where I can start really engaging more with our students who want to come. And so they're going to be excited to still want to study here in California, because that's where I'm trying to pitch it for, when we are ready to open our doors, and that we are going to be a safe and happy environment. But I feel like this engagement is where I need to really focus a lot more of my energy and time. Again, virtual fairs are great, and I will continue to do those. But this peer-to-peer marketing is something I'm going to start doing more of, doing more events or activities where I can invite students to come who want to come and be a part of our school, you know, to come to those types of things, having more blogs. I mean, those kinds of things I'm going to just try to do more of as we kind of go forward. I think one thing I wanted to hit up really quickly, OPT has been really huge too. I have had students inquire about finding work after they finish. That's been a question too. And I feel like if you're an institution where OPT is like internships are a big part of what you do, leverage that. That is something that I need to leverage more of and do a better job of, because we do have a number of students who do OPT once they finish our institution. So that's another area that I need to engage more with our students and to find OPT students maybe who want to talk more about that as a, whether it's on Instagram Live or something along those lines. But that's a peer-to-peer marketing piece that I found that I'm not doing a good enough job on, that I need to engage in more.
And Darren,
whoa.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, I think, Darren, you touched on some really, really great things there, especially some of the, I mean, I hate to use this term, but like some of the silver linings of 2020, at least at the end of the day, I think, is that it pushed higher education, which, as we all on this call know, tends to be a fairly slow-moving institution as a whole, into this virtual world, and understanding that the opportunities that you get when you do engage in these kind of virtual events and peer-to-peer communication is such a big kind of plus for the higher education industry as a whole. And so I think that's something that we need to remember as an industry moving forward, that this is something that shouldn't go away, and it's something that will actually really allow us as an industry to reach more people, to create more opportunities, and that's something that's super important.
Well, that's what I love about Study in the USA and Unibuddy, because we're reaching students that you can't get to physically, you know, even if you tried to go around the world, you can't do that. You're reaching all over the world and you're connecting. Whereas before had specific, I mean, there's nothing wrong. You know, face to face is super important, especially in Asia. And it's so important, but I don't think this is going to go away either. For one, you can't just fly your student ambassadors around the world. You can use
They'd probably love that if you did, though.
and you can use your alumni, you know, to a point. But this is so accessible, and students are so used to being online, you know, and high school students are expecting this. This is what I see. There's great expectations for 2021. This is not going to go away, because they found this is super valuable. They can have that immediate contact, I think, with the ambassadors. So we're over our time, and any other comments from the panel before we leave and say goodbye?
Just thank you for inviting me. I really appreciated being here.
Yeah, I just again want to say I've been so impressed with Studying the USA. This is not my first platform I've experienced, but it is the best one that I've experienced. And the Unibuddy piece of it, I'm just so glad Shelley steered me in that direction to engage in that. And it has been really fun for me to be a part of that. And I'm learning a ton, and I'm getting better at my marketing responsibilities because of the work that Studying the USA and Paige at Unibuddy have given me the tools to go ahead and really leverage that. And I feel like they've been super great in really helping me maintain my enrollment. And I think it's going to really increase moving forward once we're able to really open our doors back on campus. So thank you guys to the whole team. And again, I don't know where Shelley is, but I just want to give a big shout out to Shelley. She has been
We love Shelley.
a huge driver
Yes.
in helping me succeed. So thank you.
Sandra, anything you want to share?
I just love Studying the USA, and I love Unibuddy, and I'm so happy to be part of this partnership.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays, and look for our webinars coming up in January or February, and take care. Thanks so much, Darren and Paige and Sandra. Yay.
Nice to meet everybody. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.